Welcome to Ayurveda and Spirituality with your host, Alakananda Ma, a renowned Ayurvedic expert and a graduate of a top London medical school. She is the principal of Alundi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style school in Boulder, Colorado. She is a spiritual mother, teacher, flower essence maker, and storyteller. Join us as we uncover the timeless principles of Ayurveda, discover practical tips for enhancing vitality, and explore the deeper dimensions of spirituality that intertwine with the ancient science of life.
Namaste. Welcome to Satsang. Satsang is a meeting of hearts, a gathering of friends to inquire into the truth. Today we are going to look at walking the razor's edge, or what it takes to make a commitment to the spiritual path. So congratulations on being interested in this talk. In the Tibetan tradition, it says the person who has even any interest in spirituality is as rare as a star in daytime. In Bhagavad Gita, it says 1 out of 1,000 people will come to the path of yoga, not meaning athletics, meaning yoking the mind. And out of that 1,000 people, only one will succeed. What does it take to be that 1 in a million, or that 1 in many millions? We are supposed to have the confidence that each one of us actually is that 1 in a million. Also in the Tibetan tradition, it's expressed that we have what's known as a free and well-favored human birth. We're here in a human body. We're not enslaved. We're not in prison. No one is raining bombs on us. We have food to eat. We don't suffer from significant mental defects that would make it impossible for us to meditate. And we have been born in a time and a place where we can hear the genuine and authentic Dharma. So here you are, we're going to present the authentic Dharma. A description of the free and well-favored birth in Tibetan Buddhism goes like this. There's an infinite ocean, and in this infinite ocean there is one turtle, and in this infinite ocean there's a log, one log with a hole in it. The turtle surfaces only once in an eon. The chances of getting a free and well-favored birth are equal to the chances that at the moment that turtle surfaces, he'll put his head right through the hole in the log. The story is told to remind us how important it is that we have interest in the spiritual path. Then there are 4 things that we need to remind ourselves of to have encouragement on the spiritual path. The first thought, death and impermanence. Here's the little song I made up for you. Oh sister, oh brother, don't waste this precious human birth on idle pleasures and futile cares. Fame and wealth mean nothing when you die. You can't take with you even one needle. This life will vanish like a dream, or like the stars before the rising sun. Nobody knows when death will come, so take the holy name while you can, and do a little kindness every day. Yes, do a little kindness every day. There's also a story about a sage who's been granted the boon that he'll live for as many Brahma years, which are many human years. He'd live for as many Brahma years as there are hairs on his body. And he's sitting on the banks of the Ganga in the monsoon rain, in the blistering heat of the hot season. He's just sitting there exposed to the elements, practicing his meditation. And someone comes and says, well, why don't you at least take some palm leaves, make yourself a little shelter? And he says, get this, I don't have time. That's the sense of urgency we can get from the thought of death and impermanence. For those of us that may have hit the dreaded 55, what are the chances you'll live to be 110? Not very high, huh? I have my plan to live to be 108, but I've still lived through most of that, and God only knows. But at 73, I'm not going to live as long as I've already lived, and so much time has been wasted. Time is short, and if you are young, young is the time to start. Start your meditation practice before your knees are creaky, before your brain starts to falter. Why would you waste your precious youth on anything else? So death and impermanence, and then think about the sufferings of samsara, the endless cycle of birth and rebirth. We've gone through so many miserable births. We've been rabbits being eaten by cats. We've been chased. We've been hunted. We've been humans that were enslaved, that endured all kinds of miseries, that lived through wars and famines. Even in the life we have now, we always have a pervasive sense of discontent or suffering. Then the third reminder, karma and reincarnation. Get it together this time, or you'll just get reborn to go through it again, and you might not be so lucky next time. A lot of people in the world today are not having as good a time as we're having. They're just as good as we are. They're just as important as we are. They have the same dreams, the same hopes, the same potential, but they're not having it as good as we are. Karma and reincarnation means everything will go on and on and on until we can jump off the wheel. It means that as we sow, so do we reap. There's a key question that Arjuna asks in Bhagavad Gita. Basically, is it all worth it? I've given up so much. I've given up all my worldly pleasures. And then what if I don't make it? And Krishna says to Arjuna, yoga is never wasted. All the yoga of this life will come to you, and you'll be one step higher in your next birth. So death and impermanence, sufferings of samsara, karma and reincarnation, and finally, emptiness. Like, look at your hand. What makes it a hand? Is it the fingers? Is it the palm? Is it the nails? Is it the muscles? Is it the veins? Is it the cells? Is it the molecules? Is there anything we can actually call a hand? We call it a hand, but it's not a hand. A hand is just a word. It's made up of other things. It's made up of different parts. When does the hand end and the wrist begin? There's no real essence of handness. It came together, it'll fall apart. Our bodies came together, they'll fall apart. This planet, my friends, came together, and it will fall apart. None of what we see is actually real. So why would I spend so much time trying to get and keep and preserve things which are empty of essence, that simply come together, seem to stay for a while, and inevitably fall apart? So, with those reminders, let's think about what it takes to make a commitment to the spiritual path. This has been very carefully described in the text of the Vedanta, the qualities we want to find, we want to cultivate in ourselves in order to be a spiritual practitioner. The first one is Shraddha, faith. Shraddha does not mean belief. It's not like saying, I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, etc., etc. A statement of our beliefs. That's not the meaning of Shraddha. Shraddha doesn't mean we believe in things, in postulates, in concepts. It's not about orthodoxy. Shraddha is about our concern. It's more about what you do than what you say. But it's been really well described by the great Protestant theologian Paul Tillich, who called faith ultimate concern. Faith is to have some kind of ultimate concern. We have faith When we get up in the morning and we rouse ourselves and we know that our spiritual path is really important. Sometimes when I get to bed late and the alarm clock's going off, I do have to rouse myself. I do have to go over the 4 reminders to get myself out of that comfortable bed and downstairs to the cushion. Faith isn't the things we believe in. Faith is what makes us get up in the morning in time to do our meditation before work. Faith is what makes us come home, take a little time to sit down and meditate before we get dinner or before we go to sleep. That's what we mean by faith. Having some kind of real concern for what's important. So the Shraddha, the faith, naturally leads us to the next quality, which is ekagrata. One. Ekagrata is one-pointedness. And we see this in a story about Arjuna. The archery teacher is asking each of the students to shoot a bird. And he asks each of the students, "What do you see?" "I see a tree with a bird in it," says one. "Then go and shoot." He misses. "I see a bird on a branch." "Go and shoot." He misses. "I see a bird." "Go and shoot." He misses. "Arjuna, what do you see?" "I see an eye, the eye of a bird." He succeeds. He got the lesson. This is our one-pointedness. And the way to attain one-pointedness is really to start off with some kind of self-honesty that we are not one-pointed. We're conflicted. If we were one-pointed, we wouldn't have to think about whether we're going to go to the movies or meditate. One-pointedness is looking at each activity we do and say, does it serve? Does it serve my practice? Or bigger still, does this benefit? Does it benefit me? Does it benefit all beings? The real way to be one-pointed is to evaluate everything we're going to do and everything we decide not to do in terms of benefit. Benefit not just for ourselves, but for all beings. If I do this, will it benefit? If I don't do this thing I'm thinking of not doing, will it benefit? So you might not be able to be one-pointed just from hearing this talk. You might not be able to become one-pointed today or this week. Maybe it's a good New Year's resolution to start to be one-pointed. But it's a journey of cultivation. But start to evaluate each and every action in these terms. Does it benefit? That will lead us slowly and surely to the ability to be one-pointed. In the end, that bird of illusion, the arrow will find that bird of illusion when there is that complete one-pointedness. And that one-pointedness, that ability to ask, does it benefit, brings us to the third quality. We've had Shraddha, faith, ultimate concern, ekagrata, one-pointedness. Now we come to viveka. Very interesting word. In Ayurveda, viveka refers to digestion. It refers to the ability to split our food into sara and chitta, into essence and waste, or in modern physiology, to split the foods into amino acids, sugars, splitting everything and then putting it in its right place. Viveka is our discrimination. Viveka is our ability to distinguish the real from the unreal. The analogy is a Hamza, a royal swan that is said to have the ability to separate water from milk. Well, it may or may not be true that there's any swan that can actually do that, but we need to be that swan that can separate the water from the milk. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. The unreal never is. The real never is not. This truth indeed has been seen by those who can see the true. That's from Bhagavad Gita. So what we really mean by this third quality of viveka is to discriminate the real from the unreal. We start to look at all the components of our lives and ask, is this about the real or about the unreal? Na sato vidyate bhavo, the unreal never is, it's never existed. Na bhavo vidyate sataha, the real can never not exist. In between the real and the unreal, as I was taught Shankaracharya, the great sage of Vedanta, our life lives in the space in between the real and the unreal, the world of appearance, the maya, the world in which things, though empty of essence, appear, and though appearing, are empty. So it's really amazing. We're living among that which appears to our sense organs to be very real. We have a friend right now who's been coming to chanting on Monday nights, who is an undergrad in physics at CU. So we can have very many interesting conversations because from the standpoint of physics too, he is quite well aware that the floor we're sitting on is not solid. It's mostly made of empty space. If we looked at the floor through an electron microscope, it would not have solidity. It's totally made of space, and since E equals mc squared, ultimately it's made of energy. Matter, my interpretation, E equals mc squared is matter is nothing but slow energy. Our sense organs are calibrated such that they help our bodies to interact in the world as they show us the world of relative reality. And let's not put it down. The world of relative reality is important. We have to live in it, but we also have to be able to distinguish the relative and the absolute, and we don't want to mix them up. There's a story about this. There's a student who lives in the ashram, and his guru says to him, everything is Brahman. He comes out of his lesson to go for a walk in the forest, and he's saying, everything is Brahman, everything is Brahman. And a mahout, an elephant trainer, comes running through the forest, shouting, get out of the way, mad elephant, mad elephant. The boy thinks, but I shouldn't worry about the elephant because everything's Brahman. And he just keeps standing there saying, everything is Brahman, everything is Brahman. And the elephant tramples him. Well, when he doesn't come home for dinner, the guru and the other boys go out and they find the student all beaten up by the mad elephant. And when he comes around, he says to the guru, but you told me everything was Brahman. And the guru says, wasn't the mahout also Brahman? Why didn't you listen to him? The elephant trainer that was warning him about the mad elephant was also Brahman and needed to be greatly heeded. The essence of everything is only Brahman. The essence of everything is the all-pervading ground of all being. And yet we want to live thoughtfully, carefully, and considerately in the relative world. So as we separate the real from the unreal, we don't want to despise the relative reality. We want to see it for what it truly is different faces, different facets of the real. When we see it this way, we can play in the relative world without attachment. Aha! And so we come on to the next one, which is vairagya, a sense of renunciation. What is renunciation? It's a sense of being able to let go of whatever is getting in the way of our spiritual journey, whatever is getting in the way of all beings' benefit. I've literally given away every single thing I had at least twice, down to my every last book. And after the second time of having to make major orders from India to get the Upanishads back, I realized that was a foolish thing to do. So I found another way to give away everything I have. We are a 501c3 nonprofit ashram. All I really own is my toothbrush and my clothes. Everything else, the library, the CDs of devotional music, the Agnihotra pots, the puja equipment, all these resources, they don't belong to me, but I am the steward of them. They're not mine, but I need to take care of them. Same thing. I don't really have personal money. I do have a little pocket money, but everything goes to the ashram. The ashram gives me the room and the meals. Every day I get my meals, which I cook. We grow the food in the garden. So that's a way in which, till now, we've been able to live and renounce. And we're not all going to do this renunciation in the same way. You might not all want to sleep on the floor, which is one of the vows. Don't sleep on high and luxurious beds. Sadananda and I like to do that one. You might not all want to live without a car. Not having carriages and conveyances is another form of renunciation. Find your right place on the spectrum. A young spiritual seeker came to my house one day and he said, I should just give away everything I have to the poor and go to India. And I said, I thought you were really into partying and drinking and girls. Why this sudden fit of renunciation? And he said, but I've got all these debts. I've run up a lot of credit card debt. This is burdening me. So we talked about this. And basically, if we've reached the point where we've run up a massive credit card debt to support our indulgences, that probably doesn't qualify us to give away everything we have and take off to India to bless people. So ultimately we decided that rich uncle would be asked to loan the money to clear off the debts, and then the seeker would get a job and pay off the rich uncle. And at that point, if he still wants to give everything he has to the poor and go to India to bless people, well, he'd be a little more qualified. See where you are on the spectrum of vairagya. Like, I did give away all my books, but I don't have all the Upanishads memorized. I don't have all the sutras of Ayurveda memorized. So I have to have the books. Dr. Lard said, if all my books are taken away, it wouldn't bother me because I know all the sutras by heart. So I need the books. He doesn't. That's okay. There are different stages of life for us. If we're not married, that could be the brahmacharya, the celibate student phase. We focus on getting a good start in our spiritual practice. If we're married or partnered and we have children, elderly parents, we have responsibilities, we're not supposed to just blow that off. We're supposed to carry out all these duties without being attached to them. Carry it out fully. Put the kids through college. I had a very interesting experience when I was going to the airport, and on the shuttle bus there was a German man. He was going to do some work in Germany. He's nearly 70 and still working. And the bus driver was talking to him, and he said, well, I still have debts because I put all my kids through college. But my kids shouldn't have to start their life with debt. That's my responsibility. What gives me joy is knowing that my children are happy. This is what gives me joy. So he was practicing the household dharma. He committed himself to giving his children a great start in life They aren't saddled with debt just because they got an education so that they can have a job so that they can care for others. So that's the householder stage of life. We have to discharge our responsibilities. Once the children are grown and the responsibilities diminish, that phase of life is not really meant to be about cruises and golf. Now I have less on my plate. Maybe I could downsize. I could sell my house, take the equity, buy a townhome. In some way or another, I can cut my needs down so that I, or I and my life partner, have more time for meditation and selfless service. This is the Vanprastha phase, the phase of life when the children are grown, the elderly parents are taken care of, or they have gone on to other worlds. This is the phase of life when our responsibilities leave us. And it's not about, now I finally got to have the fun I've never had before. That's not what elderhood is for. It's a time to do our practice and to serve others. And as we get older still, we might lose even these concerns. When we start to realize any day we could look in the face of death. This is always true. We could die at any moment. None of us can count on the next moment. But as you get to be quite elderly, we get to the stage where we should have a really intense focus on what's truly important, the inner life. We might even release some of the things we're doing to help others. Maybe we aren't going to do quite as much for the grandchildren or for the volunteering, as long as we want to focus on our spiritual practice. The focus, preparing myself for death, preparing myself for the next life. So the real vairagya is to see where you are. Are you at the celibate student phase, the phase of really getting started on your spiritual path? Are you at the householder stage, discharging your responsibilities? Are you at the retirement stage, focusing your life on spiritual practice and what you do for others? Are you at the life end stage, preparing for death with great intensity? But our detachment is more than renouncing things. And I was taught this by my dear Hindi teacher, Mrs. Laddu. She was a great knower of Bhagavad Gita. And she said to me, look, I'm a woman. My husband, my daughter, my future grandchildren need me. I can't go away to the Himalayas to meditate. But here is Bhagavad Gita. I can practice Niskama Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga, the path of desireless action. By doing my actions without clinging to the fruits, I can attain everything that I would attain by going away to a cave to meditate. So for women especially, we often are quite attached to our children, but remember what Khalil Gibran said, your children are not your children. They are the children of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but they do not belong to you. So just like I'm running the ashram in stewardship, raise your children in stewardship. Take care of the family finances in stewardship. And then instead of I, me, mine, we can do all these things. And we can do them even better when we renounce the fruits of action. So the key point is the last one. The last thing we need to cultivate is the only thing which will make us be that one person in a million. It is the burning thirst for liberation. Ramakrishna says, you will see God when you long for God as a barren woman for a child, as the man lost in the desert longs for water, as the drowning person longs for air. That kind of longing, that's what we have to cultivate. Ramakrishna said that one guru actually did this. A person said, show me how to see God. And the guru said, come with me to the Ganges. So they went to the Ganges, and the Guruji pushed him in and held the student under until the student thought his lungs were going to burst. And when he came up and said, Guruji, why'd you do that? The Guru said, you will see God when you long for God as just now you longed for the next breath of air. This is a story, okay? It's just a story. It's a story Ramakrishna told. This is the kind of longing we have to cultivate. Maybe today we don't have this longing, but you wouldn't be taking your time on your commute, in your morning, in your evening, whenever it is, to listen to this podcast on committing to the spiritual path if you didn't have at least a little sprout of this kind of longing. Maybe our longing is a little flickering flame that sometimes the winds of the world will seem to put out. But when you have a fire, the fire starts burning and suddenly a draft comes, and for a moment it seems the fire's been put out, and then suddenly again when the draft passes, it leaps back. So we may just have a little flickering flame of the longing. But it's really important. It's a start. Cultivate the flame of longing. How do we cultivate it? We can cultivate it by doing spiritual reading. Cultivate it by going through the 4 reminders. Every morning when you wake up, go through the 4 reminders. Remember the death and impermanence, the sufferings of samsara, karma and reincarnation, emptiness. Every morning when you wake up, remind yourself, my life will come to an end. I can't waste today. Consider a day when you've not meditated to be a wasted day. And your days are numbered. When we meditate, we are cultivating that flame of longing. When we read, like the Upanishads or the Yoga Sutras, we are cultivating that flame. When we read saint stories, Sarananda and I, every night before we go to sleep, we read a story from Miracle of Love, stories about Neem Karoli Baba. The book is falling apart. We've read it so many times. When we read about the saints, when we read about the great beings, it helps to fan our longing for the spiritual quest. And as we grow on the path, our longing grows. I also found at a certain point, the longing I had turned inside out. From being my longing for liberation, which is so intense for me as a young person, so intense, it has now become the longing for all beings' liberation. And that is the greatest longing we can have. I don't even care whether I'm reborn or not. In fact, I want to be reborn as long as there are beings I can support, beings I can benefit, beings I can help. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, so too may I abide to alleviate the misery of all. That is from the Shantideva's life of the Bodhisattva. And you can benefit beings in several ways, in the manner of the sea captain, the king, and the shepherd. In the manner of the king, you cross over first. make a way for others to cross over after you. In the manner of the sea captain, you want to bring the boat home with you and all the others on it. In the manner of the shepherd, every sheep will get into the fold ahead of you. So my practice is the shepherd. We've often been taught that the spiritual path ends at the moment of union. My life journey has taught me that's not the end. It's the beginning. The moment of union is when we come back to the marketplace with our two hands, the two hands of divine mercy and divine compassion, and our breath is the breath of divine life. When we're longing for union and we haven't attained union, we need to feel the longing for union. But as we start to experience the union, then we long for everyone to attain. This is a poem I wrote. In the burning desire for you, O my beloved, soul reality, I left my father's house, my mother's arms, and came alone into the desert, fasting, praying, yearning, longing, waiting, traveling far, enduring sickness and privation. I sought and found the true Guru, walked the razor's edge with bleeding feet. I can seek you no longer, my beloved, for everywhere I see your form. Yearning, longing, burning with desire, I serve you, bind your wounds and dry your tears. I sacrifice myself to you who are all the children of the earth. I reach out to embrace you with arms nailed to the cross of my own weakness. This body, broken in the long search, lacks the strength to serve you as the heart desires. O my children, my beloved, I am the broken bread, the wine poured out for you. Eat and drink, I beg. The little I do is all I am. Namaste.
Thank you for tuning in to Ayurveda and Spirituality with Alakananda Ma. We hope today's exploration has ignited a spark of curiosity and insight within you. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and share it with a friend. For more enlightening discussions and practical wisdom on Ayurveda and spirituality, subscribe and join our Facebook group, Alundi Ayurveda. To allow us to continue sharing valuable content, consider donating to Alundi Ashram. The links will be in the show notes. Until next time, may you walk the path of Ayurveda with grace and embrace the light of spiritual wisdom in your journey.
Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtiva